Ah, shit. All right, so we are rolling. My man Tim, how you doing, bro?
I'm good. I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah.
It's been too long, man. Too
Uh,
long.
This
I've
is what
seen
happens
you.
when world pandemics happen and stuff, and we can't get out of the house.
And that's true, man. We ain't been Banya. We normally go there, sit in the sauna, chat about some new technology that we have.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
I
Drink
know.
some
I know.
fermented juice.
I was talking about booking a banner in a few weeks' time, so it's like perhaps we should do it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Make sure you hit me up about that. So you've been jet setting, going all over the place, even during the pandemic. What are
Yeah.
you immune? Like, what's the secret, man? What's going on?
Biohacking. When you spend 10 years of your life optimizing your health, um, yeah, I guess you look at the world differently opposed to the people that are panicking. But I mean, no one's completely immune, obviously, but it's about minimizing the risks and doing what you have to do to minimize the risks. And that's all I've been doing. But
Yeah.
10 weeks across Europe, in and out of all the different zones. I flew into Germany and then trained across Europe to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Frankfurt, Munich, Stuttgart, Venice, which was empty because there's no tourists there, obviously. So it was ridiculously cheap, like 30 euros a night for the hotel, which is just insane.
Really? Oh, man.
And then round to Twister, and then down to Croatia, Pula, and then down to Zadar, and then back to Pula, and then back to Italy, and then back to Germany, and then to Budapest, and then home. And that was 10 weeks.
Incredible,
During
man.
lockdown.
Say that again?
During lockdown.
That's amazing. Did you go with your team? I swear I saw some people that you said you knew. Like, what's the deal?
I went over to get some dental work done with Dr. Dom over in Stuttgart. I mean, he's obviously my friend, so I spend a lot of time with him and his family anyway. But I flew in to get to see him, and then it's like we postponed the summit because of Corona, so we pushed it out to the end of January. And I thought, well, actually, I've got a pause button right now where I've got, a couple of months that I didn't have before, and it's been full on since the last summit last September all the way through till then. So I hadn't had a minute off of work. So I just thought I'm going to take this opportunity and have an extra week in Europe. But then that was another week and another week and another week. And I mean, I could have kept on going in all honesty, but yeah, I had to come back.
End up running out of cash if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's fairly expensive, but I think I've got a lot of friends around Europe, which was nice. So I stayed with quite a few, got some good Airbnbs, and a cabin on the beach for a week or so as well, which was beautiful. But I mean, at the end of the day, I either spend it in London or I spend it in the sea, swimming every day and working from a laptop with a cup of coffee. I mean, it's a tough, but I gave up my office job a few years ago so that I would be able to travel and hang out with the speakers and find the best brands for health and work on my health opposed to working on my stress. So I mean, it's kind of paid off at the moment. The only curveball is that the summit obviously was delayed to January as a result of Corona, but it was the right thing to do.
We'll come to both. Actually, I want to talk about the dental treatment that you had. We'll come to that, and also about the health optimization. But the first thing I want to speak about is you had a bit of a journey to start off with. Obviously, on social media, you're known as Tim Biohacker, showing us all these tricks and stuff, like just giving so much education to the world. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Like, you just come up with these things. I mean, they're not new, but you create it as if it is new. The way you deliver this information is amazing. But I know you haven't always been the health optimizing enthusiast that you are today, as we all know you. Like, how did your journey start for you to be in a position where you are right now?
I've been in digital marketing for pretty much 20 years, over 20 years now. From marketing my own companies in the beauty industry once upon a time. And I applied psychology to my own website and then to other people's website and had a digital agency. So my background is really marketing. It was quite high stress because I brought several agencies and merged them together. So I had a lot of staff, over 30 of them. It became really stressful. And the more and more work I had, the less and less time I had. I mean, I was waking up at kind of like 7:30 every day, working from the moment I woke up on one company and then on another company, and then I'd get home at 8 or 9, have something to eat and jump into bed. And I was very, very stressed. I was commuting quite a lot. Even though I loved my job, I was burning the candle at both ends. And, you know, the fuel I was putting in wasn't the type of fuel that I eat these days, or the type of fuel that you eat. It was pretty crappy food. It was prep most of the time, and sandwiches, thinking bacon, lettuce and tomato was healthy. You know, I mean, you focus on what you need most, right? And at the time, my career was the most important thing to me. But essentially, I'd burnt out. And from that came gut issues, kidney stones, urinary tract infections pretty much every week, which was insane. Prostate issues, chronic fatigue, brain fog, which was the worst because, you know, when you can't think straight, you know, everything else is impossible. So it got to the point where I was in and out of the doctors all the time, like literally every day, 1 week. And then it was enough was enough. And I said to him, what's wrong with me? And he said, well, I can't find anything wrong with you, Tim. But I knew that there was loads of stuff going on. So I just started researching, and that was nearly 10 years ago. So I started researching and figuring out loads of things, doing all the juice diets and gut cleanses and trying supplements before it was really big and fashionable. But yeah, and I did that for 5 years before I heard about Bulletproof Coffee. And then that was the entryway in for me. I heard about Bulletproof Coffee, tried it out, absolutely loved it, couldn't believe how amazing it was for my energy and mental clarity. And then found out about Dave Asprey and his podcast and started listening to that, and then researching more and more and more about biohacking. So, I mean, I've been in health optimization for 10 years, nearly, biohacking for 5 years. But I'd learned a lot of cool stuff, you know, 5 years before most other people had really heard about biohacking and before I'd even knew the label. So yeah, it was just through, I guess, a need because doctors couldn't help me. And I just had to figure this stuff out. And this is before there was support groups on Facebook, most of it. So you had to look at forums or blogs and just piece information together. There was no functional medicine doctors as we know them today. So I really had to figure a lot of this stuff out. And, you know, it's kind of, my basis was always, if I've got a clear mind and no brain fog, then I can figure everything else out. So I worked on nootropics and mental clarity and all these things that we know today, like aniracetam or methylene blue, or, you know, or the natural nootropics like I'm using at the moment, which is Mindscopic, which is actually really, really good.
Okay, Mindscopic.
Yeah, I mean, more these days, I'm more natural based wherever I can be. But yeah, I think it's been a long journey, and I've learned a lot of cool stuff before a lot of other people are in this space. More and more people are popping up into biohacking nowadays, because it's becoming more and more funky and more mainstream. But I guess I'm just sharing the knowledge of the things I've learned over the last 10 years.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the way biohacking is going at the moment? Do you feel it's I don't know, like when I watch the fitness industry, you know, where you got supplementation, like whey protein and people with six packs and fake boobs and all that sort of stuff. It's become so saturated with less authenticity. That's my thoughts on that anyway. And a lot of people that are more focused on the exterior than actual health itself. What's your thoughts on the biohacking community? Is it growing in the right direction?
Well, I'll tell you first thing on the fitness industry. It's about, a lot of it is, some people want to be fit and they want to have more energy and increase to look better. So that's a visual thing. And like a visual and actually a self-worth. So some people don't feel enough with the small body, myself included. I mean, I'm working on it. But when it comes to the fitness, it's often aesthetic as well. So people care how they look. And sometimes that comes from an insecurity. So therefore they're always trying to convey that they are something that they're not, which is why Instagram always paints a certain picture of some people, and other people just live it. Some people just feel good. Like I remember when I asked you about your story and you told me about where you came from with about Lympha Christi, and then how you got into this space, which is really inspiring and awesome story. But a lot of people get into it from a place of insecurity because they want to feel worth. And I think that's the thing about some of the fitness or the bodybuilding industry, in my opinion, whereas within the health industry, it's slightly different. or on the biohacking space, a lot of people in the biohacking space are either they've been ill and it's humbled them a lot, and they're generally doing anything they can to optimize so that they can feel healthy again because they've been chronically ill. Or two, they're an executive or a high performer and they want to be at the top of their game. They're a city boy or a trader or working late in a management consultant agency or something, and they need to perform high. So I think biohacking is growing so much because it kind of combines all of those things together. Like a lot of fitness guys, like for instance, Chris Gevin. I love Chris, he's amazing. And he's obviously a big bodybuilder with a massive history in this space as well. And when we first spoke, it was just like, he's in it for health from the inside out, as well as looking good from the outside in, which really resonated with me. And I think that's very similar to you, Roger, in all honesty. And that incorporates the inside out and the outside in, opposed to just the outside caring how we look and not caring on the inside and faking it. And the other thing is that biohacking space, most people have very strong integrity and they want to help other people. And therefore integrity is what you do when no one's looking. So Instagram isn't so faked, I think, in the biohacking or the health optimizing space, because people really have strong integrity. Whereas in the fitness world, I think a lot of people feel trapped behind what they need to appear to be. And they're kind of stuck in that. And there's been a few cases where people, like for instance, Ben Bukolski went, hey guys, I was unhappy. I was trying to look the biggest and best the whole time. I pushed myself and I became unhappier and unhappier and unhappier. And it came from a place of need. And here's where I'm at these days. And he kind of broke through that, and he's in the biohacking space and he's becoming more and more mindful. So it shows where biohacking is bringing in that side and the other side. And the other thing is that obviously bodybuilders are some of the best biohackers, but they're not in it for health biohacking. They're in it for performance or getting bigger and bigger, using certain chemicals to make them bigger and bigger. It is a biohack. It's just not a health biohack. So I think when you put these things together, knowing that bodybuilding or certain steroids, for instance, work really well, biohacking does for health really well, like blue blocking glasses that we both use. We know they work, which is why we use them. It's not because they just look cool. It's partly that, but it's because they really work. They really, really work. And when something really works, then it catches on even more so. And I think biohacking, with the goal of not always, but mostly fixing things that don't usually get fixed, it's catching on. It's also a funky label, and it's also helping loads of people. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds pretty in depth, and I think I agree with all of that, really. What about like certain technology which is out there? Do you feel that some of them are a bit like, I don't know, it seems cool, but I'm really not too sure about that? Have you come across anything like that before?
Yeah, there's quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think everyone comes out, in the health space, it's obviously an important space right now, especially with COVID times. And there's a lot of innovation going around, but a lot of innovation comes around through a place of trying to get more money. So there's a lot of products out there that they hope that this is going to be the one that makes it big for them. So there is an element of that, but there's also an element of a lot of people that are really trying to help others as well. And I think when those two things overlap, it creates a lot of innovation. But there's also a lot of duds out there as well. I was sent a nootropic last week to check out, and a supplement. And I just took one look at it, and you could see that it had been formulated by, someone that just didn't know what they were doing. Completely inactive forms of B12 that wouldn't be good for most people, and just like anti-caking agents, E-numbers and all this stuff. And it was supposed to be aimed at biohackers. And I just kind of said to them, look, as much as I would love for you to come to our summit, sorry, until you've really done this, and this, then no, I won't allow it at the summit. So, they kind of took it like a punch on the chin, I guess. But the point is do better, because we're in it for health, not for profits. Profits come second, health comes first. There's also some other technologies that get thrown on my doorstep for me to check out. I won't name them, but there's some things that are just interesting, good concept, but don't stack up in reality. But there's also some really amazing things like Flex Beam. I'm not sure if you've got one of those, but the red light belts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, that's that's innovation. There's another red light stack, the same as everyone else's, that's manufactured pretty much by the same people in the same place. This Flex Beam have innovated, obviously, the red light belt, which you can wear walking around the house, or you can have it around your neck. And I think that's the type of thing that's really taking a technology that's good already and bettering it, just like Mac did with the laptop versus Windows crap. Special to people that are Windows fans, but let's be honest, Macs just work. But I think that, you know, FlexBeam have done that with red light therapy, and I think like people like Mindscopic, who are actually exhibiting at the summit because I like them so much, you know, they've taken something that's usually a nootropic that's not necessarily clean and made it like ridiculously clean with really good, even down to the quality of the capsule and things. So, you know. Yeah, I think health comes first, profit second, but they're both obviously really important. Otherwise, it's not sustainable to keep a brand going.
It's good that you filter them out, like, you know, you check them out properly before you decide to have them come to the summit, because being in the position that you're in, you could allow a great deal there. Like, you know, because of the sheer volume, it would look quite impressive, but you're looking beyond that, which is great.
I mean, we did a lot of research, or I did a lot of research, and so did my team, about a year and a half ago, on all the brands that I loved. We listed them down, we wrote to them, we invited them, the ones that are actually incorporated into our lives as a team. And that's pretty much how we filled the hall last year with exhibitors. This year, obviously, we've invited the exhibitors back that went well last year, and then also curated new brands as well. But 90% of the brands, maybe more, are from invites, me saying, look, I really want you at the summit. This is why, this is what we found out about your products, and I've been using it for a while. So that's really a big part of my job, is looking for the best speakers on the best topics that we've crafted out topic-wise for the summit, but also the best products and brands to support biohacking or health optimization. You know, I think a lot of conferences just take on any brand. And anyone that would pay, but really we're very, very selective, because I put my name to each brand there. And, you know, if we were to walk around the house here, you would see the brands that I talk about are ones that I actually use every day. Yeah. You know, they're not product placements, they're just stuff I love, like Ugly, for instance.
Ugly. Okay. Yeah. Does that stand for something? Or is it? No? Okay.
It's just
not an acronym.
Sparkling water with natural flavors. So it's actually like you know, basically clean carbonated water with a little bit of natural flavoring.
Take me through your supplement stack. Have you got like your 10 best supplements, or 10 supplements that you probably got a ton more, at least 35?
Yeah, I do. I think my one that I don't ever stop is trimethylglycine. That's TMG.
Wow. I need to note that down.
I mean, it's down to methylation, and it depends on your genetics, and knowing your genetics versus mine, dude, you probably don't need it.
Oh, right. So I don't need to note it down. I was just getting my notes out on my phone. What is it exactly? Trimethyl what?
Trimethylglycine. So you would have heard of glycine. It's an amino acid you get in various amino stacks. Trimethylglycine, just it's got 3 methyl groups. So for me particularly, well, if you're having a detox day where you're a bit grumpy and moody, I find that if you take trimethylglycine, it helps speed up so many processes that you don't, the grumpiness goes. I call it my myriad, man period, where I get it every so often. Generally when I'm detoxing, like if I tried to, you know, something to regulate my liver, or if I took some alpha lipoic acid to detoxify some toxins or whatnot, then I might get grumpy in the afternoon. So I take trimethylglycine. But the bigger thing is it's good for energy production for me. And I find that it's the one thing that gets my energy clean and smooth flowing. So that's number one. The second is the amino acid stack from Sups Nutrition. So that's branch chain and essential aminos, obviously. It's got creatine, glutamine, taurine, and I think it's acerola cherry as natural flavoring with a little vitamin C. So it's a 5-in-1 stack really. And I find for me, when I'm traveling, for instance, having an all-in-one that I just carry around. I mean, I'm only 66 kilos. I've gone up 6 kilos in the last few months. And I didn't want to lose that while traveling. So obviously I take the Amino stack and then make sure I eat loads as well. But I find that really helps me maintain and keeps me anabolic opposed to catabolic because I'm a hard gainer. So that's the number 2. I also like, there's a product called Thorn by Thorn, and I think it's a methylation supplement. I'm trying to remember the ultimate methylator, I think, or something like that. And it's got B12 and methylfolate and trimethylglycine in it as well. There's various other things I have depending, like if I am traveling, I will take vitamin C. And if I feel like I've got a cold coming on, I'll be taking 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every hour around the clock until it's gone. And that pretty much nails any cough or cold or anything on the head almost immediately. If I'm not getting out into nature and I'm not getting enough sunlight, which you see I obviously have been this year, thank God, I would optimize with vitamin D, and I take anywhere between 3 and 10,000 IUs a day. I think I spend, anywhere from 3 to 7 hours a day outside on the grass, working on the laptop or on the beach or wherever I can be out in nature. And I think I was talking to Dr. McCullough about this a couple of days ago when we were recording, and he said that he cited a couple of studies that have recently been done around vitamin D and COVID. And he said 96% of the people that got hit hardest had the lowest vitamin D below the recommended dose that functional medicine doctors recommend. And strangely, 96% of people that didn't get affected pretty much at all by COVID had higher vitamin D than recommended or standard levels. So optimizing your vitamin D could be the number one thing to ensure that you're not hit too hard.
Would you say D2 or D3 matters?
D3, yeah.
Okay.
D3 and vitamin K2. I think it's Mark 7, which is NATO sourced or NATO sourced, however you call it. Again, SUPS Nutrition, SUPZ Nutrition. It's a German website, but they also have an English one. It's actually one Dr. Dom's brands. That is clean source vitamin D and NATO sourced vitamin K. So it's lovely if you do need to supplement. For darker skin, African descent in Northern Hemisphere countries actually has the highest rate of prostate cancer because of the vitamin D levels, because obviously darker skin needs more sunlight than pale British people like me. So optimizing vitamin D naturally is ideal. Secondary is to supplement D3, K2. And if there's one thing really that I would recommend, it's that ultimately. But for me, it's more personalized because I do intercellular testing to know what I need on a cellular level to be healthy these days.
I want to get to the testing, actually, different sorts of tests and what you recommend. But I notice you do a lot of grounding. I think I've seen pictures of your feet more than my daughter's, in all fairness. So like, all right, it's probably one of the high end of your biohacks. Could you explain why it's so important to you that you must do grounding?
Yeah, sure. So how do I put it? Grounding is one of the most basic ancient biohacks you can do. I mean, our ancestors were biohackers. We lost track of connection to the planet and nature. So the reason why it works so well is when we're standing on grass or soil or in the sea being hyper-connected, when we're grounding, earthing out. So, when you buy something for the house and you've got a plug with three pins in it, the top one is earthing. And all that does is it's usually a copper wire that runs down outside of the house into the soil. Now, what that does is that's the earth part of it. Now, what that does is it gives us, when we're standing on the ground, a flow of free electrons, okay? And those free electrons go into the body when you're touching them, and they scavenge free radicals. So they literally pair with a free radical to make it a stable molecule, which is basically reducing inflammation. And it's also in very basic, is the sunlight is positive photon energy. So light is energy, okay? What light we have determines a lot about us. For instance, blue light stops us producing melatonin. Red light is very healing and stimulating at the same time, but we still produce melatonin when we're subjected to red light, but we're not to blue. So light is energy, essentially, and that's not woo-woo, that is science, okay? So when we're standing in the sun, we're getting photon energy from the sun, we're getting free electrons from the earth, and we're basically a bio-circuit board in between the two. So what it's doing is it's helping us charge up and helping us heal and making us reduce inflammation and whatnot, okay? So the problem is that we didn't evolve with plastic shoes on. We had leather, which leather is conductive, and our feet sweat and have lots of nerves in them, so we stay connected to the ground so that they sweat, and then we're actually better connected as a result. But now we have rubber shoes. We don't connect with the ground. Most people can't remember the last time they got their shoes off and stood on the grass. When I ask this on stage, you know, I say, who's grounded this week, or who's taken their shoes off and been out in the garden this week? And often one hand's come up and it's a follower. So, you know, we also evolved in a cave, sleeping on grass, which is connected. So we're getting free electrons, which is reducing inflammation. And if you look on Google and look at the amount of studies done on inflammation or anti-inflammatories over the last 20 years, you'll see it. It's like plotted on a chart. It's like this. It's insane. Well, that's funny enough. The correlation doesn't equal causation, but almost exactly through that period, the use of rubber shoes has increased significantly. So the reason why I ground is for exactly those reasons. I feel a lot better when I do. If I'm stressed, or not anxiety, because I don't really get anxious, but if stressed or a little bit jittery, I will go outside and I'll sit cross-legged on the grass. And I find that it sorts me out within a minute or two, but I generally do a 30 to 40 minutes minimum a day. Now, with biohacking, obviously, it is using technology and technological advancements to reverse the damage that we're doing by having technology around us. So for instance, if we're wearing rubber shoes, we need to earth out. So you can buy an earthing mat, which I've got here on my desk, and one on the floor that I'm standing on. So that's connected to the earthing socket. So I'm earthed out while we're doing a podcast, even though I'm not in the garden. I've got earthing bed sheets as well. And you can check your body voltage to see that your body voltage comes down when you are earthed out. And if you do live blood analysis to look at red blood cell before grounding and after grounding, you can see that it goes from being clumped together to equidistant, showing that the charge in the body is actually correct now. So the reason why I believe it so much is if we look at ancestral times, we evolved and we've been around for hundreds of millions of years, supposedly on the planet. Our ancestors survived and we made it to this point. But we're not as healthy as we've been in the past. Sure, we're living longer because there's various drugs to keep us alive and resuscitation protocols and emergency care is amazing. And we're not getting eaten by lions every day or having tragic things happen like our ancestors used to, but we are living longer, more chronically ill. And understanding what we're not getting from nature or what we evolved with tells us what we should be doing, because we evolved and we survived to this point. For instance, ancestors that, let me just think of an example. Ancestors that didn't have teeth, for instance, didn't get to chew their food and they died off, which is why we all have teeth. Ancestors that didn't sleep or slept through the day would be eaten by animals, because all the animals are alive during the day as well. But the people that slept at night, that obviously worked for a reason, because they're repairing and things couldn't eat them during the night because most things are asleep. So therefore that survived. So we were grounding, that's natural. We were getting sunlight, that's natural. We weren't covered in sunscreen protecting us from the sun. And we were swimming in natural water, not filled with chemicals like chlorine, and we weren't drinking water that's come from a processing plant that's got no minerals left in it. We were drinking from a stream that was mineral rich And those minerals are obviously electrolytes, which means our bodies are fueled. So as you can see, all these things tie in together. What would our ancestors have done? The only, I guess the rub in all of this is that our ancestors didn't have pollution like we did, like from cars. They didn't have beautiful tiled floors and patios that aren't earthed out. They didn't have, like all the different chemicals around the houses, like that bleaches or antibiotics. So there's an element of, we've got ourselves through today to a place, but we now need some things to get us out of that mess. And then the final example is blue blocking glasses. We have lots of blue light. I've got one of these beautiful hoops up here for when I do interviews, and it's very blue. That's telling my body that it's daytime right now, so I'm not producing melatonin. What I use is the technology like you're wearing, is the blue blocking glasses, which now I have no blue light going in my eyes, which means that my body now thinks that it's obviously after sunset, or it is sunset, and therefore I start producing my own melatonin properly, which means I'll sleep better. So this is a case of using technology to reverse technology, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Technology, it's amazing. And I know that you've done quite a lot of, so many different tests. It's unreal. So if somebody they kind of understand how their body is, they're like, I know if I eat this type of food, my body doesn't respond very well, or it affects my sleep, or I end up with a rash. I know that I feel irritable if it's too hot or if it's too cold. So people might have a general understanding about themselves. But if somebody wanted to do some kind of test that can give them some real comprehensive, robust information about themselves, which is not not expensive, people who just want to kind of dip their foot in and they want to know, I don't want to do all of these tests. Like, what is the main three tests to get me started, to give me some information where I could just be on my way to make some real good conscious decisions?
Well, first of all, just adding the caveat in here, work with a functional medicine practitioner if you're going to do tests, because we have governance in the UK that says that if you do have tests, they need to be ordered via a practitioner so that they can determine the results for you. That's just putting that caveat in there. There are several that I work with personally and recommend to other people, which I'm happy to let you know for the show notes or whatever. So the tests that I do go for generally and it really depends on what people have got going on. My favorite of all is probably the Nutra-Eval. That's Nutreval by Genova Labs. Now, what that does is it looks at the metabolome. So it's metabolomics test, which is intercellular. So it looks at basically, if we talk about our cells, obviously our body's made up of lots of them. You look at the cell, you have a cell membrane, which is the outer edge, and then everything that is in the cell. A very simplified way of explaining it, obviously. So what that test does is it looks at what's in the cell that shouldn't be, i.e. is there mercury in there or arsenic or whatever, and what isn't in there that should be. So are you deficient in certain nutrients? So it actually looks at the output of the cell, and also within your, depending on your diet, you can see if your omega oils are balanced, and obviously what oils you have. So for instance, if you're having healthy oils like olive oil, coconut oil and things like that, they help make up a healthy cell membrane, which is the outer edge, which means that the right things can flow in or flow out of it. So Nutra-Eval test basically looks at you on a cellular level and says, what are you actually deficient in? And then you can go away and figure out and take which supplements you need to have to get the stuff in the cell. Or if you've got high levels of mercury because you eat a lot of fish or had metal fillings once, you can then figure out the protocols to get the mercury out. So once the mercury comes out, you then have the space to get the stuff in of what you need to. So it's very, very basic in and out process with a really amazing test. That's my favorite one. And that's pretty much default for most people that want to get tested in something. The rest of the tests depends on what your goal is. So if people have intolerances or find that they feel funny after they eat whey protein, for instance, or they get irritated gut, then I would say that there's the GI effects comprehensive stool test by Genova as well. And also Omnos, and I'm not sure if you know the guys over at Omnos or not, but they do
Thomas.
Thomas Olivier is awesome. You can order the test through their website at Omnos, and they do a microbiome test similar to the Genova one. And it looks at all the gut bacteria, and so you can see what you're high or low in, what you need to add in or what take away, opposed to just taking more and more probiotics and spending loads of money and literally putting it down the toilet. The other one is the organic acids test, which you can also order through Omnos now as well. You can just go to their website and order these, and that tells you if you've got leaky gut or systemic yeasts like candida from overuse of antibiotics and any other things like that. So that's a urine test that tells you another part about the gut. And then the final one, I'm just trying to think that I would recommend. There's actually through Omnos as well at the moment. There is a test called the Dutch test, which is a hormone panel, and you do it through urine. And you pee on a little strip 3 or 4 times in a day, and it looks at your hormones throughout the day to see if your cortisol's at the right level, what your testosterone is, estrogen, and all of these things. So you know that if you're chronically fatigued, for instance, or if you're finding you're slumping in the afternoon, you'll know what your hormones are doing, so therefore you can optimize it accordingly. So those are really the core ones. There are a hell of a lot of other ones like glycan age, which is one that I like recently for checking your metabolic age, and loads of others.
Yeah, there's loads, but those are the main ones that you said there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm
most
just
of
trying
them
to go backwards now.
through Omnos.
Omnos, yeah.
So
they do hormones, organic acids test. There's a microbiome, and there was another one you mentioned.
Yeah, the intercellular one.
Yes, I need to check that one out. Don't think I've done that one. I tried the hormones one. I kept messing up the test. I don't think Thomas likes me. Like, no, he's been so kind, but like every time, like because you got to urinate on it about 5 times.
Yeah.
Swear down, you have to do it at certain times. I'm like, I'm not thinking about urinating on this strip. I've got other things going on in my life. And I'm like, oh, damn, I messed up again. And one time, I think I got some other fluid on the test, and I was like, can it still work? Like, if we just cut a piece of it off? He said, no, you have to discard the whole thing. So, I was not happy about that. But yeah, thank you. You mentioned earlier, we've got all this COVID stuff flying about. What's your views on COVID-19? Do you think it's more complicated than the general public understand it to be, or do you think we are overcomplicating it? What's your thoughts on it as a whole?
I think actually it's something new, and no one knew what the hell was going on, the governments or anyone. They knew that there was a virus out there and it was pretty bad, but they didn't have enough data on what it was actually doing. Now there's a lot more data and they understand a lot more about it. I think in the UK, they said, no, we're going to go for herd immunity. We're just going to let this baby roll out. And then everyone went, no, don't do it. That's dangerous. That's irresponsible. So they said, okay, we're going to lock everyone down. And it's basically because we asked for it. And then everyone goes, no, don't lock us down. We don't. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. Like, what do you want here? Like, so the government did, because bearing in mind they're here for the people ultimately, and they need the people to understand that they are doing the best by them to protect the people. Obviously, there's always people that don't agree with them, and they're never going to be right for everyone all of the time. They're just doing the best they can, in my opinion. And they had to minimize risk, because if they were too ballsy and didn't protect the people enough, and it ended up wiping out half the British people, then they did the wrong thing. If they locked it down and saved the people to some extent, they knew that they would lose some people through other things. But I think they did the best they could with the information that they had at the time. Where we are now is that we do have enough data. Definitely. Like, there's so many different things going on. Like Sweden, for instance, isn't far different to where we are now, and they didn't really have any lockdown at all. And also, I think things like the vitamin D study that came out last week that Dr. McCullough was telling me about, which there's quite a lot about it online, so you can verify all of this. But I think looking at people with low vitamin D and better at vitamin D, knowing that some people don't even contract any symptoms at all, which I do know people that were tested positive and had no symptoms at all, and they were the youngest, healthiest people I know, and that optimized their health. They got it, they didn't show any symptoms. Whereas, for instance, me, about a month ago, I stayed with some people that actually had it tested positive the day after I'd seen them. So of course I self-isolated for a few days. I got tested. This is when I was abroad, and the whole time I was negative with no antibodies and no virus. And I think what the difference is I have, while I'm not 100% healthy, I'm always working on something, I think, but I do everything I can to minimize the risk. And sunshine and grounding and eating very clean, having the right digestive enzymes, so I'm getting those nutrients from my food all the time, is absolutely, my biggest priority in life. So I would hope that, they say that it could be T-cell immunity. So basically your body deals with the virus before it actually gets in there. So it's like the first line of defense is pretty strong. And then the second line of defense is obviously the immune system, when you build up the antibodies to it. And then your body fights that off. So some people just don't have any fight at all, and other people get hit heavy. A lot about it is down to metabolic health as well, and how healthy you eat and how much sugar you have, and whether or not you're eating a healthy diet and having the right fats and things. So the data is so big, global. Like, we've never collected data like we are right now globally on this thing. Now it's just, I guess, releasing expectations and letting people know that they've been supported. But I mean, I think a lot of people are very happy about vaccines being worked on. It makes them feel really safe and happy. And other people are going, these vaccines, it's just a big conspiracy and everything. But I think no one's ever going to make everyone happy. And while I'm not a pro or against vaccinations, I know that some historically have been great. I don't think all currently are great, but I do think that they have served their purpose at some point. But I also think that there's industry as well. And, if you owned a pharmaceutical company and you had resources to try and help the world situation and make a profit at the same time, would you want to jump in? You probably would. Let's be honest. I mean, you make a few bucks and also try and be the brand that saves the world. Of course, they're just trying to do the best they can and make money at the same time. So I think that the other mindset is people saying, well, we should be talking about metabolic flexibility and metabolic health and vitamin D and nature and all these things. And there seems to be two camps, and neither agree with each other. And I just think, well, let's look at this realistically. What do we do to help the world get back to where it should be, not necessarily the same place, where everyone's a bit more mindful about their health, and understanding that what they put in their body determines how worried they have to be if there's ever another pandemic. That's my opinion on where we are today.
It's quite interesting. It does make me think, those that do get hit hard, it kind of shines the light on these individuals to show their immune system, really. I've listened to a few podcasts where they've mentioned that this whole lockdown process is causing a lot of people to become more sick and more susceptible to, COVID-19, or even just a general sickness. Would you say lockdown would have increased the chances of getting COVID-19? Or do you think if it didn't happen, the process still would have been pretty fast in people contracting it?
What I would say is that washing your hands with antibacterial stuff all day, every day, covering your face up. We were designed with a mouth and a nose to breathe, a mouth to eat and kiss and whatnot. Yeah, we weren't designed with something over our nose. We didn't evolve with something over our nose where we're rebreathing in our carbon dioxide. I've heard through medical friends that people that have been wearing face masks are actually starting to get eye infections from the bacteria in their nose, and cause it because it's been up like this. And so we're not getting as good air quality. We're breathing our own carbon dioxide. And we're using antibacterial hand wash, which bacteria are actually, we are bacteria, we're absolutely stuffed with them. And killing that off isn't necessarily good for immunity. And I think a really interesting study would be to look at the homeless guys on the streets in London to see how they were during COVID, because they were probably the most exposed to the elements, the most exposed to bacteria and viruses. And yet, have we heard anything about the homeless people dying? I don't think we have. And they're not using any soap, any cleansing stuff. They're just not. And yet they probably got the best immune systems out of everyone as a result of just eating all this crap and picking fag butts off of the street and smoking them, as I always seem to see them do. But the point is like, I'm not being disrespectful to them. I'm just saying that they probably got really strong immune systems, whereas the people that are being caged up in their apartment on the 15th floor with no access to a garden or sun, not allowed to go outside and get good clean energy from the sun or any of the free electrons from the earth, and no exercise other than moving around the house or screaming at their partner and hiding in another room or whatever they do. You know, that can't be good for health, because we didn't evolve in a house. We just didn't. We evolved with all of the elements. So I think if you put someone in their natural environment outside, then they would be much better. If they didn't use antibacterial stuff, they would be much better. But using soap and things like that, I think, is fine. So I think we're not doing ourselves a favor. But Anthony, Fauci said this week that he uses vitamin C. And several other big doctors are saying that, you know, you need to use sunlight and grounding and fresh air and, you know, and vitamin C and vitamin D and all these things that we've been talking about all year, and it's just starting to come out now. So there is good behind this whole situation in some respect. I just think that people need to respect that nature comes first, medicine comes second when nature doesn't work, not medicine first, nature second, because that's just not how we evolved.
Yeah. So do you feel that one would have been faster contracting than another? Do you think it would have spread fast one way or another, like the way it is now? Do you think it has caused more like compromised immune systems and, you know, made us more easier to contract it than if we hadn't had the lockdown?
That's a tough one. I think that if it's easier to get it now if they've been inside the whole time and they've not been optimizing their health properly, and they've just been eating, smoking, drinking, carrying on as normal, but at home with no natural light or anything, and they're definitely in a worse place. And I think this has been a big thing that's documented and talked about quite a lot, not necessarily in the traditional media, so I think, some people are in the worst place, but a lot of people are in a much better place because they've got a garden, they've been out in it, they've not necessarily had to work, they've been paid to not work. They've had time with their children and their loved one and all these things, and they've had a lot more time in one place than they usually have. They haven't had these day-to-day meetings. They've had Zoom calls that last 20 minutes instead of having to travel for 2 hours for a half-an-hour meeting, you know.
Yeah.
A friend of mine in Dallas, Sean Wells, actually, he spends most of the year traveling, never stays in one place for more than 5 minutes. And yet during lockdown, he was at home pretty much the whole time. And, you know, it gave him a reset, a breather to really chill out. So I think it's been good for him. There's been a lot of good that's come out of it. There's been a lot of events and summits and courses and all this stuff that's happened as a result. So I do think there is a lot of good that's come from it. But some immune systems have suffered and some have definitely done better for it.
Okay, cool. You were in Germany, beautiful Germany, seeing, what's his name? Dr. Dome.
Yeah.
Love that guy, man. Love his energy. We had a great podcast where he was telling me lots of stuff. What is his book that he released? What's it called?
It's All in Your Mouth.
It's All in Your Mouth.
That's what she
It
said.
sounds like, huh?
That's what she said.
Yeah, do you know what I was thinking? It sounds like an adult movie. But anyway, moving on.
He's German and it's translated from German. I would have gone with health starts in your mouth in the UK, but in German it seems to translate well. But us English are dirtbags when it comes to our filthy humour, so we make a rude joke of everything.
Absolutely. So you went there and you got some dental work done, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been back several times actually for some.
Exactly. You'd been back several times. So obviously oral health to you is very important.
Yeah. I can't wear these things. I just can't.
No, why not?
It's
It's cool, man. It's cool.
yeah, I think I'm going to leave the blue blockers off for the meantime.
All right.
That's going to be an amazing screenshot. Yeah, so I went over I had a cyst. So when I had a scan about a year ago, I'd had some sinus issues. I had a postnasal drip, and I've had a few dental issues going on for a few years. I've seen specialists in the UK, max fax surgeons and ENTs and all these things, and they couldn't find anything wrong. One of them said, "Oh, you've got a cyst on both sides in your sinuses." So when I saw Dom and he saw my scan, he was like, "Yeah, you've got a tooth here that's got basically a cyst on the top of it. That's why when we take that cyst out, when we take the tooth out, that means that the sinus lining won't have a cyst in there anymore. And what we do is we put a ceramic implant straight in. So instead of having a gap there and letting the bone, like if you have a root canal tooth or a tooth taken out, then if you take the tooth away, then the bone would shrink back. It won't grow into the socket. Whereas if you then plug the socket where the tooth comes out of, the bone, the ceramic implant will osteo-integrate, meaning the bone will grow around it. So you then can have a crown put on it so you don't have to lose a tooth. You know, the biological dentistry way is health starts in your mouth, which is what Dom's book's all about. And it's understanding that, you know, that what goes in here really determines the rest of it. And if you've got, for instance, a bacteria imbalance in your mouth, that will filter down to the gut. So you'll have bad gut health. If you've got unhealthy gums, you've had a cavity, you've got a root canal treated tooth or metal fillings or something or other, that's going to interfere with the bacteria in your mouth and everything else that goes in the body. So it's about removing those blockages, i.e. if you've got or interferences, removing the mercury fillings, which are metal, which are not good in my opinion. If you've got root canal treated teeth, a lot of the time people have got chronic health issues as a result because it's a low grade infection in there, not in every case. And I understand root canal treated teeth have its place to stop pain, but it shouldn't be there forever because it's a dead organ. So a lot of people that have got you know, chronic health issues have also had a lot of dentistry work. And I think that's because there's a lot of nerves that's connected to the body. They're electrical circuits almost, but actually they are. And if you've got something interfering there, then it can give you headaches or sinus issues and all these things. So I went to Dom. I mean, he's a very, very dear friend of mine. He's almost, you know, as close as a brother would be to me. I love him to bits and we work very closely on many things. And I think not only is he an awesome guy and an awesome dad to his kids, he's a naturopathic doctor, he's a biological dentist, a surgeon, a bodybuilder, a nutritionist, a product formulator, a skateboarder, all these things. The point is that he started dentistry many years ago and he was just like, something's not right here, well, I'm just fixing bites, but I'm seeing similarities in patients. I really want to help them fix their health. And then he understood the differences between oral health and gut health and then how they all come together. So that's where his book is, Health Starts in Your Mouth, or It's All in Your Mouth. Yeah, how to help with chronic health. He's helped me on that journey. Actually, we've been in that together. We're documenting it very closely. It's big part of my journey, actually.
Yeah. Did you find that did you feel better? Like, I don't know, mentally or physically after all these treatments you had?
Well, yes. I mean, I had 7 metal fillings once upon a time, which have come out over the years. Now, the expression "mad as a hatter" comes from people that used to make hats back in the day, and they used to use mercury in the lining. Now, mercury is known to be a neurotoxin and the second most toxic substance known to man that's natural. And if you break a thermometer in a school, the school's evacuated if it's got mercury in it. And yet we have metal with mercury in it in our mouths. Now that mercury and it's controversial in the medical world, but it's been widely accepted in other countries like Germany, for instance, that it should not have anything in the body. It should not be in the body, and that pregnant mums should definitely not have metal fillings. So if it can be dangerous to a baby growing, can it be dangerous to people? Now, mercury does stop certain enzymatic reactions from happening. It does kill certain bacteria as well. So it shouldn't really be in the mouth. And even if it doesn't do anything bad, would you want to risk that it could do something bad? And if you've got chronic health issues, why wouldn't you get rid of it if you're not sure? Now, what I do know is I started getting ill 3 years after I had metal fillings in my mouth, and I had a whole load of dentistry work and train tracks, which have various different metals in it as well. And that's when my health started deteriorating. So that's one piece of it. I really do believe that the metal filling side of things is bad, very bad. And it was definitely for me, especially when you have certain genetic variations. I've got several gene mutations from my DNA test that shows that I need to be careful with detoxification of things like metals. So yeah, that's the importance of it. Really, really important.
Oh, cool. It was yourself who told me about the amalgam fillings that I had in my mouth a while ago. But yeah, that's all sorted. I have none there anymore, so it's all gone. And I have beautiful teeth now.
You're superhuman as well, dude. I don't think you've got the genetic variation I have. It didn't seem to affect you very much.
No. But I do have the ApoE4 gene, so I think it's kicking in already. I'm forgetting shit. I don't know, man. But yeah, anyway, you put on a really amazing summit. What year were we in? Last year, see what I mean? Alzheimer's kicking in. It was amazing. It was really good. And so what's your plans for the next one, 2021, for the Health Optimization Summit?
Well, we were going to have it in September, actually last weekend. But because of COVID, I took a call a few months ago to delay it until the end of January, just to be responsible. So yeah, it's currently planned for 30th and 31st of September, 30th and 31st of January, 2021. And we're full steam ahead with that. If there are government lockdowns or if it's irresponsible to have it, then we will revisit that. But at the moment, you know, the uncertainty is very tough to work with. We have to build towards a goalpost, and that's what we're doing. The lineup is literally insane. I can't, like, year one was so big for a year one event that pretty much all the speakers were very, very happy to either come back, or the new ones had heard, you know, how good of an event it was in year one, such as Dr. McCullough. When I emailed him and said, "Oh, it went well," he said, "Yes, Tim, I've heard." Yes, I've heard. I'd love to speak year two. So I'm very, very flattered because Dr. McCullough, I've read pretty much every one of his emails, newsletters every day for the last 10 years. He was the first integrated or functional or alternative thinking doctor that I found in 5 years before Dave Asprey even. So to get to know him and have him speaking in London and chatting with him about stuff and doing a podcast with him a few days ago as well, it's been like a dream come true. Yeah. So yeah, we've got Dr. McCullough, we've got Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof Coffee guy, the father of biohacking. We've got Vishen from Mind Valley as well. If you know of Mind Valley.
Yeah, Mind Valley. Yeah, he normally has like a ton of guests on his podcast as well.
We got Max Lugavere, who is also
Genius Life, Genius Food.
Yeah, we got Dr. Sachin Panda, who is the guy that wrote the doctor that wrote the Circadian. Amazing book, one of my favorites. We've got Dr. Jolene Brighton, who is all about female optimization and hormones. We've got Amy Killen, who I know has been on your show a little while ago, speaking again. I love Amy to bits. Paul Saladino, who is the Carnivore Code, the doctor that wrote that book.
Awesome.
Clint Ober, who's the father of the grounding movement, really. Dr. Dom. Luke Story's coming back again. We've got Patrick McGowan, who is the guy behind the breathwork, the Buteo Clinic, and wrote the book The Oxygen Advantage. And Mike Matthews, actually, from Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, if you know Mike or know
Mike
of.
Matthews.
Yeah, he wrote the book Bigger, Leaner, Stronger and Fitter, Leaner, Stronger for Women. He's got a couple of brands out there, and he's a great guy, actually. I read his book all about different protein types and how to do minimum effective dose weightlifting, which I did about 5 or 6 years ago. I obviously stopped. But I've recently started again. But no, so Mike Matthews is speaking. He's a great guy. And I'm hoping Chris Gethin will make it as well, actually.
What, to do a talk or just
to do a talk or a panel? Yeah, I mean, I love Chris. He really does walk the walk. He lives it. Massive respect.
Yeah.
Plus others obviously as well. Trying to think of anyone else that's coming along, but yeah, the lineup is just pretty much world class. If you're in the health space, you know everyone knows every one of these names, and it's very unusual for them to be in the same place at the same time, let alone in London. So yeah.
Yeah. What about the exhibitors? What sort of companies you got there?
So we've got a slightly bigger exhibitor hall this year. I think we've got about 60. So we've got the guys from Carol AI again. The minimum effective dose artificial intelligent exercise bike. We've got hunter gatherer who are obviously like avocado mayo, for instance, and collagen peptides and things like that. We've got the flex beam guys with the red light therapy coming. We've got a company called Conscious Spaces who look at your house and optimize it for basically biohack your house. So you have better lighting, grounding throughout the house, EMF protection and things like that. We've got a biological dentist, so we've got the NDU clinic who are on Harley Street. They're exhibiting as well. We got
what are they going to do there?
So no, they're talking about biological dentistry. So Dr. Don will obviously be doing a talk about biological dentistry, and then they are the London-based biological dentist guys that I know. They're great. Dr. Goran over there is.
I'm just questioning, like, what will they be doing? Like checking people's mouths? What?
No. They can't have a thing. I mean, what we will be doing is sending out an offer so people can go and get scanned beforehand,
right?
And then they will know a bit more on the day about what their protocols could be. But really, it's just more to spread word about biological dentistry and for awareness around their clinic in London. Because one of the most asked questions I have actually from my Instagram is like, which biological dentist do you recommend in London? Or the other one is, like, what is biohacking, or how do you make bulletproof coffee, and my other popular questions. So we've also got Harpal Clinic as well, who are based over in St. Paul's. They'll be doing IV therapy and vitamin D tests as well, instant vitamin D, so you can check your vitamin D levels. And then get a vitamin D shot if you need as well, which is great, obviously, around COVID times. Something we planned way before that, actually. And you can go and get vitamin C IV and things like that. We've got Sensate, who are the meditation device. I think you've got one as well. Love those guys. Brilliant.
Amazing.
Obviously, Aura Ring guys are coming. We've got Bio-Optimizers, who are my favorite digestive supplements. Omnos are going to be there. We've even got a company called Bizu, who are like a little urine analyzer, so you can have a look to see what's going on in your body via your urine to see what you're excreting. So that's a new biohack. So I think it's very, very cool.
Okay.
They haven't released it yet. It's due to come out very soon. And then we've got a couple of DNA testing companies. Actually, one. We've got a nootropics brand, Mindscopic, who I spoke about earlier, and then Body Bio as well. Body Bio are they sell the right supplements to sort about the cell membrane that I was talking about earlier on, to make sure that the cell membrane's nice and work correctly. So they do phospholipids, and they do sodium butyrate and things like that, which also helps with the gut. So they're gut optimizing as well. So it's really, I mean, there's a lot more than that, obviously. But
you said about 60.
Very well-rounded set of brands.
What about PEMF? Anything like that going to be there?
We had Pulse PEMF last year.
Okay.
I don't know if they signed up yet or if they're going to. But I know we've been in discussions with a couple of the PEMF brands. Pulse is obviously my favorite.
Right.
And I think there's only one unit in the country at the moment for PEMF.
Right. Really?
Yeah.
There's New Med. Well, do you know New Med?
No, I haven't heard of those guys. You know them, do you?
Yeah, I guess I've spoken to them a few times. I got one of their devices right here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, feel free to do an intro, and I'd love to check them out, because we haven't got one signed up yet, and I don't know where they are at the moment. But we could have a chat with them maybe.
Yeah, it was Pete who introduced me. I don't even know his surname. Pete. I had him on the podcast as well. Pete. I think he's known as PEMF Pete on
Oh,
Instagram.
yeah, I know Pete. Yeah, I know Pete very well. Oh, yeah, that's a great shout. Yeah, Pete's a lovely guy actually. He's
Amazing.
ex-exec for one of the big motor companies, flying around the world pretty much all day, every day. And pretty much like me, he had enough of it and decided to make a change. Yeah, I love Pete. He's an awesome guy.
Such an amazing guy. He introduced me to it. And, you know, after he told me his story, I was sold. I was like, I need to get this.
Yeah,
I wanted to get a super cheap device. But then after they just was telling me about how amazing this one is, I was upsold, you know. I was like, all right. But yeah, one final question. I just want to ask you, what does biohacking mean to you?
It means to think outside of the box and to optimize your health, not listening to any one mindset, because everyone has their own opinion. It's about having a health issue and figuring out the best fix for you, whether or not that might be the best fix for someone else. So it's, yeah, I mean, the definition of biohacking is the art and science of optimizing your health using the environment inside of you and outside of you. That's Dave's definition, Dave Asprey's. And I think really is, it's freedom to optimize your health, listening to all the data from all the different people around, and then deciding the right path to go down, whether that's health or performance. Yeah, giving you more flexibility than listening to a doctor that can't actually tell you everything because he can only prescribe drugs or surgery, not necessarily prescribe this supplement or tell you to go and stand on the grass because his colleagues were called him an idiot, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's just freedom to be able to optimize your health and live a healthier, happier, better life with better relationships as a result.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah. Pretty much covers it. Thanks a lot, Tim, the man. Tim Biohacker. Tim, great. So, bruv, we need to get that training session in, man. Every time I speak to you about it, you keep ducking out and hiding and flying out the country. That's the real reason you're traveling, isn't it? To just keep away from me, right?
Just keep away from you, mate. I tell you, man. It's been challenging. It probably would have been less working out if I'd been in the gym.
No doubt. We got to make it happen. But look, Tim, thank you very much. Yeah, anything you want to say as a final message, or are we good?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, check out the summit, sign up to our newsletter, which is healthoptimisation.com, and follow me on Instagram, which is Tim Biohacker. That's where I share out all the biohacks and things that I'm learning along the way. Yeah, it's growing pretty quickly at the moment, which is great.
I know you're flying, bro. You're flying. Like, your content is amazing. So guys, make sure you follow Tim. I'll be writing all his details in the show notes. So check him out for sure. All right, Tim, put on those blue light blockers, bro. We're going to be off camera, so you can put them on. Get ready to get some rest. All right, sweet. We'll catch up soon, brother.
Cheers, dude.
Take care.